Patch 12.13 is here, and today we're taking a look at the low elo tier list and the changes coming in this week. It's definitely not the biggest patch in the world though, and as we update this every week there aren't too many tier shifts to talk about. However, we do have the newest champion Nilah joining the Rift, and of course the much anticipated Sivir midscope update. If you want to check out all things Nilah, then head on over to the champion page over on our website. Our experts have prepared in-depth guides, counters, combos, builds, runes, and everything else that you need to know on how to get started on her. So make sure you check that out by clicking the link in the description. Anyway, let's jump straight into the top lane first and foremost, and in the god tier we have Darius and Kayle. Aurelia, Kled, Renekton and Gragas all move up to the B tier. Gwen is moving up to the A tier following on for some pretty significant changes this patch, and Yone will also join her there. Yorick now also moves back into the S tier and Tahm Kench moves from S to A. So every time Gwen gets buffed or nerfed or changed, she yo-yos between being absolutely broken or a bit too useless. And these changes coming in this week seem to be aimed at making her a bit more consistent across the board. Her Q's snip damage is being buffed at all ranks, the final snip damage is also being buffed too, but the center snip now deals 75% true damage rather than 100. Gwen's Q now also deals bonus damage to minions below 20% health, but deals only 75% damage to minions who aren't in that execute bracket. Gwen's W now lasts 4 seconds down from 5, but the bonus resistances from it are being buffed. Her E deals more damage, has more range, but has a longer cooldown at later ranks. The cooldown refund is also being nerfed early game, but it's a bit better a bit later. Gwen's ultimate damage per needle is going up, and now she can recast it at 1 second after the first cast rather than having to damage an enemy champion first. Overall, these are a good attempt at bringing Gwen more up to speed and making her a bit more desirable to lower ranking players rather than just her being abused in pro play. They definitely seem like a step in the right direction, and to be honest, Gwen is pretty damn fun to play. So every time she does get changed, she often becomes flavour of the month again. So expect a lot more players again this week. Gragas has crept back into the top lane meta again, and in High-ELO people are playing it a hell of a lot. The new First Strike, Night Harvester and Archangel's build is doing a lot of work up there, so if you haven't tried it, give it a go. It deals a surprising amount of damage. Gragas in that top lane has a ton of flexibility into loads of different matchups with various runes, mythic items and playstyles, but whichever one you go for, he's actually in a pretty good spot. Gragas is pretty easy to play at a basic level, which means he's one to consider picking up and adding to your champion pool, but he's also infinitely better and very difficult to master. He's got lots of different combos and mechanics to get used to, but learning them is really fun. I'd recommend giving him a go if you haven't already, but just be careful of those few matchups that can really ruin his day, like Akshan. Poppy has recently become one of the most popular and honestly more effective top laners in the game. I personally think this champion has been a bit broken for quite some time, but people just haven't really been playing her, and recently this has definitely changed. Poppy offers a monumental amount of disruption in her kit, and whether you're setting up ganks and getting super fed or you're just farming and 1v2ing weak side, you can easily be impactful no matter what. Poppy's win rate is surprisingly attractive right now, but we are seeing Divine Sunderer nerf this patch, so it'll be interesting to see if this does make a difference. If it really is that bad, I'm sure Poppy players will have plenty of alternatives though. Either way though, Poppy is a fantastic choice this patch, and she can shut down all sorts of difficult modern mobility champions pretty easily. Onto the jungle now, and in the god tier we have Master Yi, Diana, Rammus and Zac. Fiddlesticks moves up to the A tier following on from those buffs, and Volibear moves out of the god tier due to those nerfs too. Fiddlesticks' buffs will instantly see him be more popular, and although he's fairly simple in concept if you're going to play him, please look up those jungle clears beforehand. Fiddlesticks can clear very quickly and efficiently if you know what you're doing, but if you just pick him and YOLO it, you're not going to be able to full clear until the 5-minute mark. Fiddlesticks mains are a little bit rarer this season, but he's never really been in a bad spot. He's got solid ganks, scaling, and his team fighting and ambush potential with that ultimate are still just as good as they ever have been. These free buffs are going to make a lot of Fiddle one-trick super chuffed, and this could be a fantastic time to give him a go. Master Yi is either broken or useless in low elo, and he's been changed quite a few times already this season with various nerfs or buffs sending him to the top or the bottom each time. This patch is seeing his attack range increased, he can now choose a direction after his Q similar to a Kayn ultimate, and his meditate is being changed pretty significantly too. To be honest, these changes seem kinda broken. Not only will they make Master Yi OP in low elo as usual, but these changes even allow a lot more creativity, and could mean higher elo players can abuse it as well. I wouldn't be surprised if some of these changes got reverted or changed pretty soon after the patch, but either way we're going to put him in the god tier for now, and let's see what happens over the next few days. Trundle is without a doubt a jungler that you should be playing right now, and he's just not as nearly as popular as the other crazy meta junglers at the moment. But guess what? He can beat them all. Trundle has incredible early invading power and can easily put the enemy jungler behind throughout the early game, but he also absolutely melts tanks due to his ultimate and his itemization. Trundle is a fantastic answer in so many ways to those big dominant meta picks at the moment, and his win rate is very reflective of how strong he actually is. The best thing as well is everybody is playing enchanters and utility picks like Seraphine, all of which can buff up your movement speed and help keep you alive, which removes Trundle's biggest weakness, which is him being prone to kiting. Yes, Divine Sunderer is getting nerfed this patch, and I know Trundle builds this a lot, but we don't think it's going to make too much of a difference on how strong this guy actually is. And I'm sure if it is nerfed that hard, people will just build Trinity Force instead. If you haven't been playing Trundle recently, here is a quick reminder to play him again. Over to the mid lane now then, and in the god tier we have Swain, Seraphine and Kassadin. Heimerdinger makes an instant appearance, as even though he's not being played as much over recent weeks, those that are playing him have a crazy high win rate. Corki received a few changes to his itemization and his ratios, Galio and Vex also received minor improvements, and Talia has been buffed as well. But none of these champions are going to change in their current placements for the time being. Lethality items are also receiving 5 bonus movement speed per legendary item equipped too, which will help slightly, but let's be honest, it's not going to make anyone broken. Seraphine is still super popular right now in 3 different roles. You can build her full damage, full utility, or a hybrid of the two. And whichever build you go for, you are definitely going to be insanely impactful, especially as the game progresses. Seraphine offers an unfathomable amount of shielding and healing throughout fights, and also boasts one of the most satisfying to land ultimates in the entire game, which is more than capable of winning fights and games by itself if you can pull it off well. Seraphine's damage when you build her for it is seriously surprising. You can often top the damage charts just by spamming your basic abilities on cooldown throughout those extended fights. Unless anything drastic happens over the next few weeks, Seraphine will continue to be a fantastic choice, wherever you decide to play her. Kassadin is well and truly back, and he has a super solid win rate across all ranks at the moment. Kassadin's early game is definitely a lot less punishable and has been since that durability patch, and you almost always scale up into that late game beast that we've all seen before. Kassadin's AoE damage, his mobility, and his consistent threats are ever present, and if you get to level 16, you're going to have a lot of fun. It doesn't really matter what comp you're against when playing Kassadin, because you can simply delete whatever type of target you come across. You can one-shot squishies easily, but you can also deal with tanks pretty well too. And they are really going to struggle to take you down unless they have a huge amount of reliable point-and-click CC. Kassadin is a fantastic pick into all sorts of team comps at the moment, and he's pretty much one of the best mid lane picks to go for no matter what happens in Champion Select. As long as that mid lane matchup isn't too horrific and you know what you're doing, you're probably going to win a lot of games with this champion. Yone is being played a ridiculous amount at the moment, across all ranks. From the lowest of the low to the very high elo brackets, Yone is everywhere. He has a ridiculous amount of mobility, he has mixed damage so he's pretty difficult to itemize against, he scales like a monster, and he has several different playstyles that he can adapt to depending on the game. If you want to split push, go ahead, because there's not going to be too many champions that can actually deal with you if you're ahead. If you want to flank team fights and look for those huge AoE ultimates, go for it, because it's rare that you're going to lose a fight if you pull this off. Yone has such a risk-free playstyle in lane, with his E offering insane trading potential and safety at the same time. And if you do get a bit fed, you can use this to just dive your enemy on repeat and end the game inside 15 minutes. Whether you stomp the lane phase or just scale into that late game, Yone is a top pick to play if you can play him well enough. Onto those AD carries now then, and in the god tier we have Seraphine obviously and Twitch. No major buffs, nerfs or changes coming into this role that will affect the meta aside from some Karthus buffs to his base stats, which will actually help him out for the few players that do enjoy him in that bot lane. The main things to take as an AD carry from this patch though are the newest champion Nilah and the Sivir Rework. So Nilah hits the Rift this week, and it's safe to say that she's got a lot to offer. She is a mobile melee AD carry that extends her auto range by hitting you with her whip. Her W can block incoming auto attacks, she gets improved healing and shielding with her passive, and her ultimate is like a mini Diana ultimate that can heal her based on the damage dealt. Nilah has been very strong on the PvE, and if it hits the Rift with those numbers, she could well be a bit overpowered. However, we aren't going to place her in any tier just yet until we know what she looks like when she hits live servers. Don't forget to download our desktop app and import her best builds straight into Champion Select as soon as she goes live though. We've also got a full expert guide coming for you tomorrow, but if you can't wait, it's already up and ready on our website. So check it out if you're keen to get started. Sivir is next up on that mid-scope update list, and most of the other champions who've received changes similar to this have ended up being very strong indeed. So first off, a lot of her base stats are being changed, leaning towards less mana and early damage, but more scaling AD and attack speed. Her new passive has been changed, and instead of a flat movement speed boost, it now grants a faster decaying boost that scales up throughout the game. Sivir's Q hasn't been changed too much, however it now deals a little bit less damage, it has a higher cooldown, but the cast time scales with attack speed, and the ability also scales with crit chance. The mana cost is lower, and the missile speed is now faster on the way out, and a bit slower on the way back. This one is now going to feel a bit more like a generic trading ability rather than the full lethality sniping boomerang that we've seen in the past. Sivir's W now lasts 4 seconds up from 3 and gives a large amount of bonus attack speed for the duration, increasing with each ability level up. The bounces are now limited to 8 per ricochet, the AD scaling is lower, the mana cost is lower too, but the bounce range is a bit higher and the missile speed has been increased significantly too. Sivir's spell shield unfortunately no longer refunds mana, but instead it heals her for a percentage of her total AD and AP, and it procs her passive. Sivir's ultimate is now on a lower cooldown at all ranks and lasts longer at later levels. The most exciting part though is that it refreshes on any champion takedowns that you've recently damaged, making it kinda like a team-wide ghost. This ability no longer grants attack speed though, however, whilst this ability is active, auto attacks reduce Sivir's basic ability cooldowns by 0.5 seconds. Once you've got a few attack speed items, this is going to be pretty bonkers. Overall, it's clear that Riot are trying to shift her mainly into a scaling attack speed focused champion. She seems like she's going to be a lot stronger the later the game goes on, and she's going to be a real threat in those teamfights, with that ultimate allowing her to pump out a serious amount of consistent damage. What do you guys think of these changes? Let us know in the comments below. We've bumped Sivir up to the A tier for now, and we're going to keep an eye on how she performs over the next few days as the changes go live. Finally, let's take a look at those supports then, and in the God tier we have Renata Glask and Jada. Blitz is going to move up to the S tier too though, after some real success in recent weeks. Unfortunately for all you guys who wanted some exciting changes here, there's no champions buffed or nerfed or anything that will really impact this role in this patch. Nilah's introduction could see some unique synergies rise up in popularity, but aside from that we're going to be seeing the same familiar faces. Blitzcrank has been doing really well again recently, and if you're bored of playing all these enchanters, then you should pick this guy up again. He is a fantastic answer to all those immobile utility champions, and if you land a few hooks in lane, you could just snowball the game and end it early enough that they'll never actually be relevant. Even if the game does go into those later stages though, you can simply just land one good hook and you've always got a chance to carry and win the game. Don't forget that Blitzcrank's ultimate also instantly removes any shields of champions that it hits too, which can be an amazing way to counter all of those big AoE shielding supports that you see all the time in this current meta. Taric has been criminally underrated for quite some time, and his win rate shows that even though nobody wants to play him, he's actually stupidly strong. From constant healing and those 2v2s to those devastating double stunts, he's already much better than you may think. Then when you get your ultimate, you soon realise just how broken this ability actually is. If you pop all of those cooldowns on a Taric's team when he presses this ability, they're all pretty much useless, and then they can just turn around the fight straight back onto you and win the game from it. If you haven't actually played Taric yet, give him a go quickly before everybody realises just how strong he is. Brand is performing better again recently after falling off a bit from those previous nerfs to him and his itemization. If you can play this guy though and you're not just an auto-filled support trying to carry from a role you don't actually play, he's pretty damn threatening. Brand carries games with his sheer damage output, and yes, in lane you are a bit of a poke and stun bot, but in the late game your AoE damage potential is genuinely enough to carry fights and win games alone. I've seen Brands walk into full teams on Baron on his own and take all of them down with him and even save the game from an almost certain loss. Brand's passive alongside Landry's often makes him top those damage charts even from that support role. And if you do still enjoy this champion, don't forget about him. Well, that's going to wrap up our patch 12.13 tier list for low elo. Don't forget that you can check out those full, low and high elo tier lists over on our website. Make sure you stay tuned on our YouTube channel for plenty of other content all about the newest champion Nilah coming out in the next few days. Thanks for watching this video guys, and as always, take care.